Hello and welcome to week 6 in Statistics for Psychology. And I apologize for the video being a little late. I'm still catching up on my travels. I'm hoping that this will all correct itself within a few days, and next week I'll be right on time. We have a big week this week too, which I know some of you are moving ahead, and even though you don't hear from me, you're going ahead and doing this. This is awesome. But we have 2 chapters where we're going to be looking at 2 very important variables, not variables, but measures that exist within distributions that help us to understand the numbers. And one of them is central tendency, or like averageness, the middleness of something, and the other one is variability. These 2 factors sort of help us to understand what is the middleness of this, but then what is also the diversity within our numbers. It gives us a sense of that. So in chapter 5, the discussion has you go out, find a peer-reviewed article that contains descriptive statistics, because that's what we're talking about now. Look at those statistics, and we're looking at median, mode, and mean, those 3 measures of central tendency. Look at that article and post in the discussion an example as to how that article utilized measures of central tendency, and were they appropriate for the type of data that they were presenting. Most likely. Explain why. Because we understand that those mean, median, and mode are ways in which we express data specific to the kind of data that it is. The nominal, ordinal, ratio, interval data that we have is specific to different kinds of reporting of central tendency. There is then a quiz where I give you options, I give you ideas and questions about central tendency. And here's what I want you to know. Look for tricky questions in there. Okay, you have to really have your head wrapped around what it means for central tendency based on different data types. And finally, we look at the Chapter 5 assignment, finally for Chapter 5 at least. And in this assignment, I present to you an extremely large data set, thousands and thousands of pieces of data. You're going to download the Excel file. On one tab, you're going to see the raw data, which is the names of it was a quiz about how happy people are. And you're going to see very happy, not happy. It's basically a 5-point Likert scale, but it's being reflected in words. So it has a nominal quality to it. But because a Likert scale of, the ones that kind of go, a 5-point Likert scale would be, very happy, somewhat happy, medium, somewhat unhappy, very unhappy. That's ordinal, and ordinal can be translated into numbers. So I can number those 1, 2, 3, 4. Copy that data, in which I did in the file. I copied all those names onto another tab and did a search replace and replaced each one of those items with 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. So on one tab, you're going to see the raw data in words. On the next tab, you're going to see the numerical equivalence of that. So you have to remember which number corresponds to which of the terms that are in that. This is a very common mechanism where we collect data based on Likert scales that have words associated with them. We translate those into numbers that we can then apply statistics to. There's limitations, of course, because that kind of data is not technically supportive of all of those statistical tests, because the difference between 1 and 2, very happy and sort of happy, might not be the same as the difference between 2 and 3. When we change it to numbers, we're assuming that those changes across are equal. There's some statistical error that's introduced in that, but nonetheless, we do it anyway because it's useful, it's easy to use these kinds of tests, and it does give us some information. So I'm showing you how I coded. Basically, I took one version of data and then coded it into numbers that we can now apply statistics to. So the first task is to create a frequency table. How many ones, how many twos, how many threes, how many fours, a table. And you're going to insert the words. So it's not just one, this many, two, this many. It's one, very happy, if that's what it is. You know, you put the terms in there. So the table is informative, telling you how many of each. And then you have a table that you are again editing in order that the labels are correct. Make sure that you do that. You are then going to apply descriptive statistics to that column of numbers. And so to get the average, the mode, the median, the standard deviation, and this is when you're going to start to see something curious about using this kind of data. You're going to see a median, you're going to see a mean, and it's going to be an arithmetic mean. It's going to be like maybe it's 2.6 or something. Well, there's no 2.6, and then you start to see, well, that's why this kind of data is sort of iffy when it comes to using these statistical tools. But you're going to use the plugin to do descriptive statistics on that. So I should see 5 tabs. You got the title page tab. You have the original text tab. You're going to insert the title page tab from my document that you download. The second tab is going to be the original Word data. The third tab is going to be the coded data. Fourth tab, or somewhere in the third tab, you're going to have the frequency table and then the frequency chart, which is the bar graphs. Then on a final tab, you're going to have the descriptive statistics. On that final tab, you're going to put another text box like you did on the title page, and you're going to explain your results. We're transferring that data back into an explanation about the measures of happiness. Okay. Remember, we always I'm showing how we start with text, translate it to numbers, and then we turn it back to language. So that's the purpose of statistics. We take thoughts and ideas, we measure those, we numerate them, we then apply statistics, but then we have to come back out again and explain in words what those numbers mean. So you'll be doing that. And keep in mind, I'll give you a little hint, talking about the mean, the arithmetic mean, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You're going to have to pick around that idea and come up with a way of telling about central tendency without making any presumptions about those numbers and how they work when we're converting a Likert scale to numbers. Okay, hope that's a little clear. Chapter 6, we go into variability. So we have middleness, and now we have diversity. And in the question, the discussion, I'm asking you to consider diversity in another way. So there's times where we want a lot of variability, and there's times when we don't want a lot of variability. And I'm talking beyond mathematics, beyond statistics. So here I'm asking you to consider the idea of variability when you're talking to people about different ideas, whether they're political ideas, economic ideas, religious ideas, ideas about where's the best sandwich, whatever. What is the role of variability in those kinds of discussions that you have? Let's have a discussion about variability and its role in discussions with people. A little circular kind of thing in there. The chapter 6 assignment is going to talk about variability. Now, that's a small data set that you're going to manually enter into Excel. I want you to compute using Excel formulas that are explained in the course book, the range, sample variance, population variance, Those are options within the formulas. Sample standard deviation, population standard deviation, using the Excel formulas. When we get into the plugin, it always operates at the sample. We actually very rarely can compute a population variance because we usually don't have access to the whole population. So you're going to do range, sample variance, and sample standard deviation using the plugin. Descriptive statistics, the same tool. Then you're going to use Excel tools explained in the course book to do interquartile range. And that is the range of numbers, the range of scores that lie in the first 25%, the second 25%, the third 25%, and the fourth 25%, the top 25%. Okay, what scores occupy there? This is a frequency distribution. How many? What are the range? It's sort of what are the range of scores that occupy the first 25% of your data? It's sort of like a frequency distribution, but it's telling you you're narrowing it down to the first 25%. What are the scores that exist within the lowest 25%, and then the two middle ones, and then the highest 25%. And I explain that in the chapter 6. And then you're going to put a text box, and you're going to explain what that means in your own words. So again, this class is to always get you from looking at ideas, transferring them into numbers, coming up with data and summaries and statistics about those data, but then translating it back into language that you can understand. If you can walk away with the ability to be able to take numbers and then explain them in words to people who don't necessarily know statistics, you're golden. That is a really, really powerful tool set to have. So I'm having you do it twice in this week. One for measures of central tendency or middleness, and another one we're going to be looking at measures of variance, the diversity within our data. Okay, so middleness, diversity. We're kind of looking at the strengths and weaknesses of each one of those particular tools as descriptive statistics, primary descriptive statistics, because we use these data in almost every formula from this point on. We're going to be using means and standard deviations in all the tools that we use. They're underneath the hood in that we're using a plugin. We're not manually doing these tests, but ultimately, means and standard deviations are involved in all of our tests from this point going on. So enjoy that. It's a bunch of work, but it's really something. Just crank it out, get this stuff out, and look forward to these discussions. I know that they're all already underway, and so have a great week. Next week, I'll be really striving to make sure that I'm back on time. I have done a pretty good job of grading, so I'm getting caught up on all that, and I will see you in the discussions this week, and look forward to that. So take care and be well.